All right, we are back for part 2 of our conversation with Clay Fink. You can find him over at Knowles247. You can also follow on Twitter, Clay_Fink. We appreciate BetUS for their continued support. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but let's jump into whether or not Florida State can fix some of its issues here in this 2024 season with Clay. Clay, everybody wants a change at the quarterback position, and I think there are pros and cons for doing that.
Right.
Do you think that a change of here, no matter what happens in 2025 and what you would say about like getting guys ready, do you think a quarterback change helps this team win more games this year?
No, I don't. I say that there's been not very many practices that I've attended in which DJ hasn't been the most impressive quarterback on the day, going back to spring. But if you look at the spring showcase, you look at the 3 games he's put on tape so far. After the spring showcase, we said as a staff at Knowles 24/7, that was if you consider that a practice, that was DJ's worst spring practice, but it was a game atmosphere to some extent.
Sure.
So game day DJ, I don't think he's better than what we see at practice from either of the 2 backup quarterbacks, Brooklyn and Luke Romanoke. But he does outperform them in practice pretty routinely, even during the season after some of these, not disaster games, but underwhelming games he's had recently.
Is there a chance that, I think you and I have used this phrase specifically just offline, is there a chance that he's like a practice warrior and Luke or Brock are just like a gamer? Like Jameis wasn't very good in practice, right? Like,
right. That's a thing.
Are those guys just maybe gamers that get into that moment, get better? Or like, are you even maybe hesitant to think that it could be that stark of a difference?
I don't think for Luke that's true yet, because he's just a true freshman. And also, honestly, Luke has some really strong, post like what I've seen in season practices, Luke has had more really strong days compared to Brock. I don't know about the overall consistency, but like, yeah, that's definitely a thing that you can consider. And I think Brock is like, you just think about like, what are his redeeming traits? Like this guy's like a charismatic leader, like kind of stepped in to this veteran team last year as a true freshman. And like, they all gave him their respect. And like, I think Brock is just kind of like, he gets out there on the field with his team and he's just like, he's ready to go. Like he is ready to go. And I don't know if he consistently brings that. I think he relies on being focused immensely, like extremely focused on game day. And most of his bad reps in practice are like, just like, you got to hit that. Like, it's not like, oh, you didn't hit the top end thing that DJ just hit, the top end throw. It's like, man, why'd you miss that like short route, you know?
Sure.
And DJ, for as much as sometimes he does like throw slightly inaccurate passes in the short route or even very inaccurate in games, like he doesn't really do that very much in practice. And that might be because of the fact that he's practiced for 5 years. I think the other writers maybe haven't thought about this as much because Jordan was just such a unique situation playing for so long at FSU. But yeah, I think that's definitely possible, the gamer versus practice guy.
Why we all thought that like the in-helmet communication stuff would really help Florida State and it would help Norvell like be able to transition what he wanted to DJ well. And I don't know if I'm blaming it all on the in-helmet comms, but like Florida State's offense is like as slow as it could be. And even when you're down multiple scores, it seems like we use up like 30 to 35 seconds worth of the play clock. And again, the in-helmet comms, I think, goes until 15 seconds left. So, if Norvell's in his ear the whole time, and then he only has, if he takes 10 seconds to actually relay that and snap it, it seems like, and maybe this is Norvell's design, is to shorten the game because he doesn't have confidence in the team. I don't know. But it just feels like we snail's pace this thing.
Oh, definitely.
And we've never been like, Oregon 2014 fast, right? Like, but like, it feels like we are just extremely slow. And is that by design, or is Norvell just like perplexed right now, or is Atkins being gone? Like, what is the reason for that?
Yeah. So
We will get right back to chatting with Clay, but first I do want to give a little bit of love over to BetUS. BetUS has all the best lines that you guys need to be checking out, whether it's Florida State or whatever team you are supporting or cheering for. Make sure that you're using BetUS. Use our code right now, YouTube150, YouTube150. You get 150% deposit bonus match on your first deposit. The next two are 125%. All of that up to $2,000. They got the best lines, the best customer service in the game. Make sure that you're making money with me over on betus.com.
I actually looked this today. They're 131st out of 134 FBS teams in plays per game on offense.
Yeah.
So correct. It's really, really slow. I think there is some sort of problem with the in-helmet communication. I'm glad that you bring this up, but I don't know what. I'm not on the sideline enough to know whether is it maybe Norvell trying to over prepare DJ on any given rep to say, if the safety does this, here's the read, and just trying to give as much information as possible and kind of overloading his head with too much information.
Sure.
Or is it Norvell just saying the play call and DJ taking too long to process it or something? I don't think that's likely. He's played so much college football at this point. But yeah, I think it's. I don't think, like you said, it's the sole reason they're 0-3. But I do think there's something to be examined there. Like this, they're a slow offense now with this helmet communication. My Kentucky team is the same way. They were 134th out of 134, and they actually did have an article about this today, saying that there was problems with the QB understanding the directions of the coach. Yeah. So I think there could be something there. We don't know right now, but yeah.
In the Georgia Tech game, you had that long drive that you end up scoring on to tie the game up, but it took so much time, and then your defense obviously couldn't get a stop, that it was all or nothing. And then kind of the same thing against Memphis. You have the long drive that gets you a touchdown to cut it to a score, and then you have another one that you end up having to kick a field goal on.
Right.
And both those drives, that was your entire possession the second half. And it seems, it's unwatchable. It is not.
It wasn't something they did last year at all.
No, they got to play it and they went. Even with Brock in the ACC championship.
Right. That is exactly when you would do it, is Brock or Tate in the Florida game. Those are the games where you implement that if it's a strategic move, which just makes it feel like there's no way. There has to be something wrong behind the scenes, whether it's quarterback or coach or I don't know.
Yeah, just taking too long to get plays in. And again, maybe Atkins comes back, maybe things change, but that seems like a major deterrent. Here's another maybe coaching qualm. We've talked a lot about in our last segment, maybe what the players are not doing well. Play calling feels weirder than ever. And okay, so and you're much more analytical than I am, and maybe you have a justification or a reasoning or a thought behind this. But man, we probably threw not to over exaggerate, but 4,000 screens in the first half. And then it seemed like in the second half when we actually opened things up and you're down 2 scores, so you got to start pushing down the field. But when you open things up in the second half, you had the bomb to Benson, you had some plays down the field. Williamson made a nice catch. Morlock had a nice catch and run. You threw a ball to Hakeem for a first down. Right. When they started moving the ball, they went back-to-back drives of 75 and 71 yards. Why is Norvell? Do you think Norvell's scared to do that in the first half? Do you think he's just trying to nickel and dime? You end up getting Jaylen Brown hurt because you're calling so many screens. Now, blocking has to happen too. Yeah, execution does have to happen there. But man, Memphis was just reading the screens and saying that's fine. You can continue. DJ had five. He was 5 for 5 for 7 yards.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're afraid to? Are they afraid to go to that stuff in the first half? Because if you just have one of those long drives in the first half, you had in the second, you probably win the game. And so that's just something I don't really understand, the play calling side of that.
Yeah, same. To be totally honest, that's not what anybody thought this team was built to be. You run, which is a whole other issue, the running game. But you run, we're going to get the teams not respecting the pass, get them in the box, and we're going to go deep because we have Malik Benson, who runs a 10-4, and Jaylen Brown, who runs a 10-6, and now no more Jalen Lucas, who also runs a 10-6. But you're just going to throw it deep. they've had one or two drives in both the Florida, the Boston College and the Georgia Tech games where they kind of effectively threw downfield. But really, those two drives against Memphis was like, this is what this team is supposed to look like. And even the running game had a few good moments on those drives.
Yep.
But why? Like, why isn't that happening earlier in the game? Why are we running all these screens? Like, screens were supposed to be a strength of last year's team with Keon Coleman, who's 6'4" and can move really well in space, and you have Johnny Wilson and Kentron like blocking. But now you don't have those big guys who can. I mean, that Jaylen Brown play, they had Ja'Kai Douglas,
Right.
the sole blocker out there. Like, yeah.
It's like a change of
Team
like a
isn't built
screen
for
or
that. They're not built
screen.
for that. They're just
Yeah.
not. And I don't know why they took it to another level against Memphis because they just ran. I mean, I don't think they had run that many screens all year compared
Combined,
to like the first half. It was unbelievable. It felt like every other play.
It was so
So,
predictable.
yeah.
And yeah, screens are like a change of pace thing, right? Like, I mean, you
Right,
get the guy
right,
on
right.
NCAA that like
That is not the basis of your offense.
right. You can't run a screen or a draw. I mean, what do you do? Third and long. Oh, you run a screen trying to catch him off, right? Like it's not a first, second, and third down play, but it seemed like it was this weekend. And
No.
that, to me, and then yeah, DJ's not been great, right? I get it. And the offensive line's not been great. And wide receivers haven't been great. But like, man, when they've actually pushed the ball down the field, like second half against
Right.
Georgia Tech, second half against Memphis, Boston College was weird all week, but
Yeah.
or the entire 60 minutes. But like when they've actually pushed the ball down the field, like the offense isn't, I mean, certainly not 2022 or 2023, but
No,
like it
yeah,
actually
but
looks
like
somewhat respectable.
it's a competent offense. Like it can
Yeah.
be, and they have to adjust for how much they overestimated the run game, but like the passing doesn't have to change because of that. Why?
Yeah.
I think they might have overcorrected after letting DJ throw the ball 42 times against Boston College and decided when we throw the ball against Memphis, we're gonna throw screens.
Yeah.
And it's like
It just
you know
it made no sense to me.
no.
Other side of the ball, I saw a tweet. I actually tried to pull it up real quick, and I don't see it. But Pat Payton in coverage a few times didn't go super well for the Noles. He did get away with that holding call, so I guess it's not cheating.
Yeah.
But they ended up scoring a touchdown later anyway.
Right.
So who cares? I guess. But is that by design? Are they wanting him in coverage that much, or is that just like he's it's flowing that way, and so they have to do it? It certainly doesn't seem like something that should continue to happen. But what are your thoughts there?
I think 2 out of the 3 reps were by design, and that's something they would do with Jared last year, which I got very frustrated about at the time. And I actually had a conversation with like an NFL draft guy back in April or so about like why were they doing this so often, and I kind of just was like, I don't know. Jared's not going to play outside linebacker in the NFL. He is going to have his hand in the dirt playing defensive end, and you can say the same thing about Patrick Payton. I will say Marvin Jones Jr., if you need a reason to get him out there, he could be your coverage guy. He was good at that at Georgia. But now they are deciding they want to do it with Patrick Payton. Patrick Payton, I saw someone talk about the 10 pass breakups last year. Most of those would come because they would be on the line. And honestly, it was more him dropping himself back into coverage when he recognized I'm not going to win this rush and I'm going to like drop back, try and bat this pass. I think one of those plays is what he tried to do. I actually think the first down where he gives up like 15 yards and misses the tackle twice, I think that was like him. I think he just got beat so bad on his initial rush, he decided to drop back. But the other two, like, it's kind of inexplicable. I don't know. I mean, it never worked when Jared did it. And like, why are you still doing it? Why are you doing it on such a crucial drive? They did it all on the first drive of the second half within like 2 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
All 3 reps. I don't get it. It doesn't really make sense. You see what it's supposed to look like. I don't know if the spring game when Marvin dropped back and he had the near pick on DJ. That's what it's supposed to look like. But when you do it 3 times in a drive, they're going to key in on that and try and run these underneath routes right behind him. And you get Patrick Payton missing two tackles in the same play as a result.
Florida State, according to, and I don't think ESPN's FPI is like the end all be all by any means, but not doing it on a win share basis, but just kind of looking at where they think that Florida State's the better team. Like they actually have Florida State favored in every game to finish this thing out outside of Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame. And then the Clemson one's even closer than maybe many people would have thought. Is 5-7 your ceiling? Would 5-7 shock you at this point?
Yeah, 5-7 would shock me. Yeah, you basically anybody can make any prediction at this point, and if they're right, they're gonna. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen because this was a team that had a 9.5 win total entering the season, and they are already under that in the quickest amount of time they possibly could be. And those are with losses to Georgia Tech, who's a solid team, Boston College, who made the top 25 after beating FSU, and Memphis, who's a group of 5 team with a solid offense and a terrible defense. Yeah, I mean, Cal is a better team than Boston College and Memphis on paper, for example. I think UNC and Duke are winnable games. I think Charleston Southern, the FCS team, is a winnable game. Florida, maybe. But I'm just not sure this team, and those are later in the year, are they going to have the same even buy-in at that point from players, even though it's not great now, when the team could have a much worse record later in the year? I think 5-7 would definitely surprise me. I'd say right now I'd probably predict like 3-9 still, just because I think they'll probably get one that we maybe don't totally expect. I don't think they're going to beat any of Miami, Clemson, or Notre Dame, but like maybe SMU or something. I don't think they're going to be favored in that game, or maybe they beat Cal this weekend. But yeah, if this was a bowl eligible team, I would be stunned, and not that it would even matter, but FSU fans are not rooting for 6-6 seasons in the Tax Slayer Bowl. But yeah,
to get to a bowl basically means they beat everybody that they're supposed to beat down the stretch, right? And
which is something they didn't do to start the year, and so I don't think I'd bet on it.
I don't think I'd take the 6. I think I'd take missing a bowl. That Florida one at the end will be one that is certainly interesting to see which program can motivate their guys to care more about a rivalry game, which is maybe sad in 2024 to say. So, Clay, where can folks follow you? Where can they find more of your work?
You can find my work mostly on Knowles247.com. I write some articles there, but really I do a lot of my work on X or Twitter at Clay_Fink. Been posting a lot of film breakdowns, negative and positive, this season. A lot of stats. So, yeah, come join the journey as an FSU fan. It's probably not going to be as fun as it was last year when I was posting all these positive stats and all these edits. But yeah, you'll be informed. You'll hopefully know what's going wrong a little bit.
Clay is a great follow. He does a good job. Like if honestly, just breaking stuff down, like kind of in real time, like during the games, right after the games, stuff like that. So Clay is a good follow. Like I said, it's not as, but you're watching this right now, so you're a degenerate. It's not as fun as it was last year, but you do a good job of keeping the people informed. So we appreciate it for sure.
I appreciate that.
So go check Clay out. I appreciate again BetUS for their support. FSU fans, I know it's been tough, but we'll get through it together. We'll have these group therapy sessions as much as we can. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, appreciate BetUS for their support. We'll talk to you soon on College Football Addiction.